This is BTV World. I am Syed Shabahat Ali and you are watching Fault Lines. Attacks on Bangladesh Hindu minority during Durga Puja celebration last week left at least 6 dead and several injured. Police have so far arrested 450 people and filed 71 cases in relation to the violence. The violence allegedly began after a blasphemous post on social media about Quran. However, this is not the first instance of communal violence in Muslim-majority Bangladesh. Since 2013, at least 3,600 such attacks have taken place in Bangladesh, according to ASK, a Bangladeshi human rights organization. The lack of a clear position on where Bangladesh stands vis-a-vis state and religion has helped breed fundamentalism and extremism in the country. The violence has prompted United Nations to urge government to take actions to stop it. Maya Sipil, the UN's resident coordinator in Bangladesh, said in a Twitter post on Monday that the attack on Hindus are against the values of Bangladesh constitution and need to stop. Our team has prepared a package. Watch the package before I bring my first guest to the program.
The world has been gripped by two overwhelming recent developments which bemoan an increasing trend of explosion of communal violence triggered by provocative protests, inflammatory rhetoric and hate speech on social media. Two significant countries situated in different continents turned out to be battleground of naked communal aggression, raising prospects of civil war. In first occurrence, Lebanon turned into a war zone as armed men took over the streets and exchanged fire near the Civil War era front line, where the Christian and Shiite neighborhood on either side. A fierce political dispute over a probe into Beirut's August 2020 port blast prompted the worst violence Lebanon has witnessed in more than 1 decade after a protest descended into a deadly street battle. At least 6 people were killed. In separate instance, Bangladesh was rattled by deadly communal violence which began on the 15th of October when hundreds of Muslims protested over the viral social media image allegedly featuring desecration of Quran. The ensuing clashes left at least 6 people dead, including 2 Hindu men, and dozens of homes destroyed, according to local media, as the bloody violence took on a sectarian tone. Communal tensions have long simmered in Bangladesh, and recent spree of violence, fueled by hate speech on social media, depicts dangers of sectarian fault lines in deeply polarized world. The escalation of sectarian turmoil in different regions is reflection of increasingly chaotic post-pandemic era, where anger and despair threaten to cripple political stability.
My first guest in the program is Dr. Ijaz Akram. He is professor in the University of Politics and Law, Chongqing in China. Dr. welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Dr. how did this incident happen and what the government has done so far about it?
With the Bangladeshi government, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, I think that we have to look at what exactly happened. First of all, the facts are that if any violence took place against the Hindus inside of Bangladesh, we have to look for causes. If we know the causes for that lie across the border inside India, Bangladeshi society is a very tolerant society, which they have the Hindus and Muslims have coexisted for hundreds of years. There's no question about that. But what is happening in Kashmir to their brothers in India is appalling and is a cause of concern. The Hindu fascism, which comes out of the bottle formally in 2014, actually had been brewing since 1920s in form of RSS when it was formed. So if there will be trouble against Muslims, if the Muslim life, liberty, honor is no longer safe in India, it is obviously going to have repercussions around the neighboring countries, especially where there are Hindus. It is very interesting and appreciable that no Hindu temples or no Hindus inside Pakistan are attacked, even though Pakistanis are the ones who feel most strongly about the Kashmiri carnage, about the obliteration of rights of minorities, Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, and others inside India. Yet we don't do that. And I think that the Bangladeshis, whoever did that, it could be even framed because these days you never know. We live in the era of false news. You give some money to some people and go attack a temple, they will attack a temple. And there could be a tactic also by the Indian government to actually bludgeon the Khalidas, bludgeon the Hasina government into submission. And so, if we look at what Sheikh Hasina's party does, which is a continuation of the legacy of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who is considered by a vast majority of Bangladeshis as a traitor. Um, and this party is the MQM of Bangladesh. And I would even argue that it is actually a minority rule because 80% of the people in Khalda Zia's BNP, Bangladesh National Party, maybe 80-90% of the people are actually pro-Pakistan. Jamaat Islami is all pro-Pakistan. If you put all of these together, then you have this a BJP's puppet government inside of Bangladesh, where Sheikh Hasina is ruling the roost, and she cannot control the mobs because her patrons inside of India are creating this carnage against the Muslims. So the causes have to be understood before we can talk about the effects.
But Dr. Sab, the statistics would slightly speak against the fact that you brought on table, because as I was mentioning in the introduction of the program, there have been 3,600 attacks since 2013, and that really makes a lot of numbers. This means this is a continuing process going on, and occasionally things erupt up with different reasons being behind that. How would you comment on that?
Yes, even if the attacks are a lot more than that, one still has to look for causes. Either the Bangladeshi society has lost their mind, or there is a cause behind this that they do this. Now, India, if you look at India and Bangladesh relations, are actually not good because vast majority of the Bangladeshis are they love Islam and they are meaning in a meaningful sense pious and observant Muslims. Now, but the ideological war inside of Bangladesh is between Islam and secularism on one hand, which also manifests as a war between Pakistan and India, pro-Pakistani elements and pro-India elements inside of Bangladesh. And so once the majority of the society, their beliefs and values are muffled and they are brushed under the rug, then they have to somehow they will end up venting up their anger and release it somehow. So whether attacks are numerous or less, we have to go to the causes of it. And I think that the causes of that lie across the border inside India. Look at what role India played when it actually helped, aided, and abetted the movement of the Rohingya from Burma, from Myanmar, into Bangladesh. And Bangladeshis did not like that, but yet Hasina's government is puppet government. So it took all that crap from the Indians. Now, vast majority of the Bangladeshis do not like that. Now, if they don't like that and they perceive that they are under the thumb of the BJP, then they may react against the Hindu minority. And so I think still, if it is a cause of concern for the Indians, they need to put their house in order. And once the causes are taken care of, the effects will wither away. But if the causes remain on ground, then we can keep talking about effects to no avail.
Doctor, but importantly, Jamaat Islami, as you mentioned, the majority Muslim political movement that has been a pro-Pakistan tilt based party in Bangladesh is also banned since 2013. I was also looking at the news where it was mentioned that Bangladesh is now also considering to review the status of its constitution from being an Islamic republic, being again a country that doesn't hold any religion as being an official religion. So, do you think that these Islamic political organizations are also agitated on this pro-Indian tilt of their government, which is also contributing into this spree of violence that we are observing?
Of course, I think that doesn't have to go far. Look at what happened in just prior to the Iranian Revolution inside of Iran in 1979. The pace of modernization or the inculcation of the beliefs and values of modernism inside Iran had gone down to a level which was utterly unacceptable to a large majority of the Iranian people. So what happened is that they overthrew that secular regime and brought back an Islamic regime, which, whether you agree with them or not, at least got rid of that element, which was deep secularism. Now, if Bangladesh wants to go the same route, I can guarantee you that at sooner or later, it will meet with a similar fate, because it is doing that under the duress of the Indian government. And keep in mind another factor, that across the border, on the other hand, we have the large up and coming superpower called China. And China is a pro people's power. It does not appreciate when people's beliefs and values are not respected. That China is now at the verge or of recognizing the Taliban, who are practicing a conservative brand of Islam. And the average Bangladeshi Muslim is actually hardly, uh, not like so hard in terms of their religiosity as Afghanistan. And so, but if the Bengalis are pushed to a corner so that they would react, and that would destroy the harmony of the society and go against people's beliefs and values, China would actually take a pro people's stance, and it would do what it has done to Bhutan, it would do what it has done to Myanmar, to Nepal, Pakistan is best friend, to Afghanistan, and to a ring of countries around it. It has won them over by stick and carrot. And I think that the Bangladeshi government will meet the same fate. It cannot run away from the weight of China that is right along its borders.
Dr. Saab, thank you very much for pointing this out. And this reminds me of the fact that the relationship between India and Bangladesh has slightly changed over a period of time. Now, with this change underway, how is the diplomatic relationship between China and Bangladesh is at the moment?
The Chinese will wait out and see. We will not see any immediate response by the Chinese on this. They will let a few months go by. They will study the situation. They will see who did it. They will see the media. They will not believe in. The Chinese don't have much of belief in what they see in Indian media, in Pakistani media, and in the Bangladeshi media. They will conduct their own investigations, and after they have collected the intelligence, they will see who was behind all of that. And if they see that the Bangladeshis are actually becoming agitated against a minority community, they will definitely go into the causes of that. I might be one of the people that they will call, as they normally do, and uh, and I think that I will point their attention towards the causes which lie inside India, not inside Bangladesh.
But China mostly has benefited out of the anti Indian sentiment in any country in South Asia, a situation that China normally prefers to have. So, do you believe that with this anti Indian sentiment being on the rise in the society of Bangladesh will help China to establish a better relationship with Bangladesh at large? This event or not this event? We're talking generally between the relationship of these two countries.
Right. It is not a sentiment that the Chinese have that is against India. The Chinese people have nothing against Indian people. But the Chinese people will not allow the Modi RSS type of mentality and its warmongering and its uncooperative attitude to last for very long. I can tell you that. It's not just a sentiment, they have a full planning to resolve their border issues to the advantage of China. They do not care a single hoot about the BJP fascism inside India. As a matter of fact, I will tell you that the Chinese have a firm resolve to put that out somehow or the other, and I think that the wars might be knocking on our doors. Now, as far as the relationship with the diplomatic relationship with Bangladesh is concerned, they realize that governments will come and go. Khalda Zia or Hasina Wajid or whatever, they would want to have a pro-people government that have a broad-based legitimacy in the eyes of its people. Only then there can be harmony, and only that could actually make the Chinese less worried about their neighborhood. That they don't want to see any tensions and skirmishes in which a large body of Muslims are constantly agitated, and it has a spillover effect in the BRI and the CPEC, because a lot of the BRI and CPEC initially on the western side of China is entirely dependent on the countries of the Muslim world. So, so I think the Chinese are going to want to tread very carefully as to not hurt the sensibility of the Muslims. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ajaz Akram, for being guest in my program. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a break and we'll join back with the second segment of the program. Stay with us. Welcome back. To join me in the second segment of program, Zayyad Muhammad Ali is director of CAS, one of the leading think tanks based in Islamabad. Ali, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Ali, we are today discussing this episode of violence against Hindus in Bangladesh. The guest that I had in my previous segment was of the view that this is because of the increasing resentment in the Muslims of Bangladesh for what is happening against the Muslim minority in India. What are your thoughts on it?
Thank you so much. I think it's a very important topic, and I think there are five aspects of it which deserve equal attention. First, that what is its strategic effect? It makes the Muslims and the religion of Islam look bad internationally, number one, which is very important. Number two, the hybrid warfare that you are familiar with, that India is waging, not just against Pakistan, but against most of its neighbors. Second is the emotions that social media quickly ignite. And fourthly, the very important and growing and destabilizing role of fake news. And lastly is the legal and administrative aspect that I think deserve a very timely intervention by all governments, that if they want to prevent destabilization in their country, they must develop a code of conduct to manage the social media in a manner that information is shared freely, but fake news is not allowed and penalized, because it creates communal tensions, it destabilizes the countries, and it allows our adversaries to use their hybrid warfare. And lastly, and most importantly, it makes Muslims in particular look bad internationally.
So, Ali, you touched all of these issues very holistically, but generally speaking, do you believe that the relationship of India and Bangladesh will be sabotaged with such acts as said by one of the chief ministers of a province of Bangladesh?
When it comes to the bilateral relations between Bangladesh and India, I'm sure you know that all is not hunky-dory. And there are a lot of tensions and problems between these two countries. Although this year marks the 50th anniversary of the creation of Bangladesh, and India flaunts its contribution for that. However, recently, I think there is a very growing and deep resentment within Bangladesh regarding the political interference of India within Bangladeshi politics. And these tensions are not just manifested in this particular episode. You would recall two earlier incidents which are also very important. You would recall that when Prime Minister Modi visited Bangladesh early this year, there were a lot of protests, not just from the religious elements, but also from the liberal and leftist forces, because the leftist forces saw Modi as a Hindu extremist, while the right-leaning conservative Muslim elements within Bangladesh also equally opposed his visit, because obviously he was seen as anti-Muslims. Thirdly, there is a geopolitical factor as well. India has been unnecessarily trying to interfere in the domestic affairs of Bangladesh. And there was a major airport which was being built by the Chinese in Bangladesh, which the Indian government overtly resisted and opposed. So these things, there's an economic dimension, there's a geopolitical dimension, and obviously there is an ideological and religious sentiment which is increasingly reflected, because and there's a Rohingya issue as well, in which the refugees who are coming into Bangladesh and India are not being adequately and timely catered to. So I think there are a lot of issues between Bangladesh and India, and but I see a revival of a growing interest in the Islamic character, and there is a sense in the polity of Bangladesh that perhaps the secularism based subjugation and subordination of their politics and policies to India was not a very wise approach in the greater national interest of Bangladesh.
Ali, thank you very much for highlighting this. Now, Bangladesh has also started reconsidering the status of its constitution from being Islamic Republic to again being made a secular country, as well as there is a sanction on Jamaat Islami, an organization that has a visible pro-Pakistan tilt and has also representation of the religious clergy, is under the ban for such a long time, since 2013. Do you see these two factors clubbing together and making it a very sensitive issue? And I'm saying this because I tried to take at least 10 different scholars on board from Bangladesh, and everyone refused, saying that this is a very sensitive issue to speak about. So tell me why it has become such a sensitive issue.
I think it's a very important issue because, as I said, uh, those elements and those people who naively trusted India and saw India as their helper and benefactor in getting independence from Pakistan in 50 years ago are now increasingly realizing that they have been exploited, and because India did not want freedom for the Bengali people, they essentially wanted to create another proxy that they can dominate, control, exploit, and hegemonize. So that sense of humiliation and is within Bangladesh, and that is, let me tell you, not restricted only to the religious elements, and even secular people who had a lot of expectations from India are also feeling betrayed and let down. Let me give you a particular example. About a year and a half ago, I spoke to one of the activists of Bangladesh who had a role in Makti Bahni and fought the Pakistani forces with the help of India. He wrote a number of books. Now he's based in the US, and he openly confessed that it was a huge blunder on the part of Bengalis to trust India, to seek their support, and to seek separation from Pakistan, and they feel that India is trying to turn Bangladesh into another proxy and completely dominate their policies and politics. So it was a huge blunder. So this sense is increasingly growing, even by those people who have been funded, trained, armed in the 1971 war. So I think this is Bangladesh is emerging, although there are elements there are sense of turbulence and instability, but I think the polity is becoming more aware, more mature, more conscious, and I think the sense that they need to shed this perception that India is dominating, exploiting, and controlling them. They need to recover from this Indian dominance.
And as you said about this economic interdependence, tell me if China has started taking more interest into Bangladesh or has created more roads or in bridges with Bangladesh recently, or is Bangladesh's economy still more dependent on India when it comes to its industry and trade?
I think it's an important question. In Bangladesh, not many people know, particularly in Pakistan, a few hundred years ago was a very important industrialized part of South Asia. During the Dutch control, almost 40 to 50% of the textile exports from entire Asia were generated from the part that currently consists of Bangladesh. But what happened after the British Raj? These factories were closed down and shifted to Britain when the British very effectively exploited South Asia. And then you are aware that the Hindus were extremely critical that the British should not give political rights and economic incentives to the part of Bengal which consists of Muslim majority. So this sense is increasingly revived that the Muslim identity, unfortunately, is needs to recover from this history of Hindu exploitation, hegemony, and control. And in that sense, they do hope that China offers a hope that eventually China and also there is some improvement in relations with Pakistan, and I think Pakistan should also have a more patient and consistent policy towards Bangladesh in order to help them reduce the Indian hegemony and influence. Although it will take a lot of time and effort, but I think there is a sentiment that some Bengali traders, businessmen look at Beijing with a lot of hope that this will help them not only seek greater economic development, but more markets, more attract more investment, and also help recover from the influence and dominance of India in terms of geopolitics as well.
Thank you very much, Syed Muhammad Ali, for being as insightful as ever. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a break and we'll join back with the last segment of the program. Stay with us. Welcome back. When it comes to Middle East, many countries are still in the eye of a storm. Many countries are facing crises that are unique in nature. And one of such countries is Lebanon. Lebanon, that was once the jewel of Middle Eastern crown, is today in shambles and crisis. The economic crisis is eating up the economy. The currency has lost its value to 90%. 3 out of 4 Lebanese are living in abject poverty. The country does not have enough money to run its electricity grid and its power stations. And amid all of this, there is an increasing wave of violence where various groups are firing against each other with guns and RPGs. This happened on 14th of October. Now the military has taken control of most of the parts of the country, but there is still a chaos in the country. To join me in today's conversation, I have Nazir Mueed, who is an expert of Middle Eastern affairs. He's my guest in studio today. Nazir, welcome to the program.
Welcome.
Tell me what is happening here in Lebanon, this country which was a brilliant and a beautiful example of the Middle Eastern culture, of Middle Eastern attraction, has today become a hotbed of conflict. Why has it all happened?
Well, this is just a long-term result of the civil war in Lebanon in the 70s and 80s. And it's just bringing itself again to Lebanon, and also the Lebanese religious groups. They are again coming in front. They are confronting each other again and again, and we will see what will the days bring in the future. But it's all the religious groups and the political parties. They are trying to stabilize the country. They are trying to eliminate all the conflict between each other.
But Nazir, what is the conflict that happened just on 14th of October? Which was these groups and why were they fighting to each other?
Yeah, this is also a result of the Beirut port blast last year. There
is an investigation, I believe, going on.
There was an investigation, and Hezbollah was trying to change the judge who is investigating the issue, and the other political parties, they are defending that judge. But Hezbollah stood against that judge, and the followers of Hezbollah were protesting against that judge. Unfortunately, they were protesting in such area which is between residents of Hezbollah and residencies of the other political group, which have the Christian majority. So the conflict took place, gunshots, and 7 people were killed in result. Many were injured, around 40 were injured. That brought the country to fire again.
Nazir, when it comes to the political situation of the country, it is also in turmoil. The previous prime minister has been replaced. There were protests on the streets against the government. After the Beirut blast, the government also resigned, and now there is a new prime minister who's coming in and is trying to control the situation. Do you think this political problem is going to be sorted out soon?
It's a big challenge to the current new government. It's only 1 month old, and it's not able to even have the ministers meeting. Because few ministers are from Hezbollah and Amal party, and they are not accepting to come to the meetings of the cabinet unless the judge is removed from his position to investigate the last year blast. They are claiming that this judge is not independent, is working from his own agenda or his political party agenda. So they are not even accepting to attend the meeting. So the government is in front of a big challenge to continue its work.
Nazir, do you think that Hezbollah has played an extremely difficult role when it comes to Lebanon, and Lebanon is in all of this crisis primarily because of the reasons initiated by Hezbollah? You see, many countries are not coming for the financial rescue of Lebanon because they believe Hezbollah to be a terrorist organization.
Well, yes, Hezbollah nowadays is in front of a big challenge. We know that Hezbollah is a precious resource or reserve against Israel for not only Lebanon, for the whole Middle East, but for the whole Muslim Ummah. But it have put itself in front of a lot of challenges with other countries, with other religious groups in its country and in the region. Hezbollah now cannot come out of these problems, cannot come out of the last year blast. It cannot accept the responsibility, and in the same time it cannot come into responsibility. They cannot take the responsibility of the last year blast. The investigations are, of course, it is targeting Hezbollah because a lot of evidence are found which says that the chemicals which were stored in the Beirut port, they belong to Hezbollah, but Hezbollah cannot
take the responsibility
for that.
And when we talk about Lebanon, the major problem that we all face or that we all see is the economic crisis. 3 out of 4 people are living under the line of poverty. How do you see this economic dismantle or disintegration of this beautiful Middle Eastern country?
Yes, of course, the economic situation is going down and down again and again every day because the instability of the political situation, because the country is ruled by guns and swords. This is a big challenge to Lebanon. Lebanon needs support from the international community, but the support also should be not to one group against another. It should be to the state. Hezbollah situation should be put under the control of the state, and in the same time the state should not eliminate Hezbollah from defending the Lebanese land and the Lebanese rights, especially against the enemies of the nation. Hezbollah should focus on its targets, on its objectives to defend Lebanon against Israel.
And when you say all of this, it is in context of a situation where Lebanon does not even have enough money to run its powerhouses. I was reading in a newspaper, perhaps it was a report of New York Times, which says 23 hours of outage in major cities. So this power outages with the fuel crisis, with the economic crisis, hardly leaves any room for improvement for anyone, be it the government, be it Hezbollah. Everybody starts looking helpless amid all of this situation.
Yeah, when we see a country where all the groups, the political parties are against each other, they are not coordinating, they are not cooperating with each other, then we can see any government of this country will fall. It cannot achieve any of its objectives. It cannot make any progress, and this is what's happening in Lebanon. In Lebanon, all the governments are falling. All the governments are not progressing, not improving any financial improvement. The economy is destroyed. Every day we can see more crises happening in the economy of Lebanon. Now we are seeing the power crisis and the fuel crisis, and then we will see the people just on the roads. This is bringing the country to a very big challenge. The people are fed up of these governments. The political parties should understand that they should come together. Yes, there is a government, and there is maybe a difference in opinions, but they should coordinate and they should cooperate with each other, and they should leave the language of weapons on one side and discuss all the issues in a healthy environment.
Nazir, in context of what is happening in Palestine, what happened in Libya, what happened in Syria, what happened in Iraq, if now, God forbid, Lebanon moves toward a similar fate, that is an economy that is just not viable enough to remain integrated, there will be another refugee crisis, there will be another situation that Middle East will have to face. Do you think this will create another humanitarian crisis in the region and will destabilize the entire region further?
Well, anyhow, already there is a humanitarian crisis in Lebanon. People are in so much need of aid, food, medicines, and every type of aid. A lot of humanitarian organizations are already, international organizations are already on ground. They are working to help the people. But this is not something good for Lebanon, because Lebanon should be a stable country. It has its government. It's not in war. It's not facing any disaster or natural disaster. So why it is in such situation? The people of Lebanon should support those who have good objectives, those who are clean and clear. The government should also bring the parties together. They should listen to each other, and they should bring the country out of these crises.
So you're still optimistic that politics can unite this country together and can bring it back on track?
Of course, politics, and yes, politics needs some powers behind it, but it should not be the international players. The international players all the way, they played a very negative role in Lebanon. since the 70s and 80s. The civil war was because of the international community. Every country is supporting one group in Lebanon, and that caused a lot of crisis on that time, and it is also bringing Lebanon to the same situation now.
And when you say this political situation can be improved, do you have any expectation from the current government that is in place? Because we just have a new prime minister, taking over, and he's trying to get hold of the things. He's a billionaire himself. He is a Lebanese. He understands the system. Do you have any hope from the current government, or do you believe that it's another evolving process which will bring Lebanese together going forward?
Well, yes, we can see the current government is a mixture of all the Lebanese. It is giving us hope that it will bring something. Let's hope that it will come out of these challenges, of the current challenges, and this will make us understand more of its way, inshallah, in the future.
Thank you very much, Nazir Moeed, for being a guest in my program. Ladies and gentlemen, the problems of Middle East in general and the problem of Lebanon in particular pose daunting threats to the peace and stability of the entire region. It is now on the international players to come forward and to help Lebanon to steer out of this crisis. We'll join you next week with another program. And until then, Allah Hafiz.